You think you know what money is. We all do. We've all heard the same story our whole lives. And yeah, it seems to make sense. But what if that entire story is a lie? What if it's a 5,000-year-old myth designed to keep us trapped? Well, today we're pulling the pin on that grenade.
You know the drill. It's page 1 of every economics textbook. Long ago, you had a village. A chicken farmer wants a cow, but the cow herder wants shoes. It's a mess, right? This whole coincidence of wants problem. It's awkward, it's super inefficient, and then, bam, someone invents money. Suddenly trade is easy, markets are born, and civilization marches forward. Problem solved. It's a tidy little story. It's logical. There's just one tiny problem with it. It's completely made up. I'm serious. Anthropologists have spent decades searching for any evidence, any society, anywhere, that was ever based on pure barter. And guess what they found? Nothing. Zilch. Nada.
So if the official history is a lie, what's the real story? Well, according to the late anthropologist David Graeber, it's not just a little bit wrong, it's completely backwards. He says we didn't start with barter and then invent credit. We started with credit, with IOUs, with social promises. Actual coins came way later. And when they did show up, they weren't a tool for freedom. They were a weapon of control.
This flips everything on its head. If money wasn't invented for peaceful trade, then what on earth was it for? This, my friends, is where the story gets really dark. See, for most of human history, we didn't have cash economies. We had what Graeber called human economies. They ran on trust. It was simple. You help your neighbor out because you know they'll do the same for you. The whole community was a giant invisible web of favors owed and favors given. In other words, credit existed long before cash ever did. The currency was your reputation.
So if credit was working just fine, where did coins come from? Well, they weren't minted in some bustling, peaceful marketplace. They were forged in the fires of war. Graeber calls their origin the military coinage slavery complex. Money, he argues, was born from pure violence.
The logic behind it is as brutal as it is brilliant. Picture this. You're a king. You need to feed and pay a massive army, right? But your soldiers are marching through foreign lands. They can't exactly use an IOU in a village they just burned down. So what do? Step 1, you loot a ton of gold and silver and melt it down into coins. Step 2, you pay your soldiers with these shiny new coins. And then step 3, and this is the evil genius part, you impose a tax on everyone you just conquered, and you decree that the tax can only be paid in your coins. All of a sudden, an entire population is absolutely desperate to get their hands on your money. They're forced to sell their food, their goods, even themselves to your soldiers just to pay the tax. Markets weren't a natural evolution. They were created at the point of a sword.
But physical violence is a messy way to control people. The real trick, the master stroke, was to turn debt into a psychological prison. How did they convince us that owing money wasn't just a financial arrangement, but a moral failure?
Just look at our language. Think about words we use for morality. Guilt, sin, redemption, forgiveness. These sound like they come from religion, right? Wrong. They come from ancient finance. The original word for sin in Aramaic literally meant debt. Redemption meant to buy back. Our deepest concepts of right and wrong are rooted in the language of accounting. It was a system designed to make us feel that a financial debt is also a moral.
And that ancient programming is still running in our heads today. It's that knot in your stomach when you look at a credit card bill. But just stop and think about it for a second. Why do we feel this deep personal moral guilt for owing money to a bank that literally created that money by typing numbers on a screen? It's because the system was engineered from its violent birth to make us feel exactly that way.
Now, as you can probably imagine, a theory this explosive didn't go down easy. Mainstream economists, to put it mildly, were not thrilled. They argue that Graeber's entire version of history is basically just a well-told fantasy, and they really don't mince words about it. The economist Jeff Hummel was incredibly blunt. He called Graeber's book, quote, a very bad book. He saw it as polemical, packed with errors, and fundamentally confused. A complete takedown of the entire narrative.
So, what's the case against Graeber? Well, critics say he's an activist with an agenda, not an objective historian. They argue he twists basic economic ideas and basically just plays word games to define barter out of existence. And their biggest point is pretty simple. Sure, maybe a system of trust and IOUs works for a tiny village of 150 people, but it could never, ever scale up to a global society of 8 billion. For them, Graeber's story is powerful, but it's just that, a story, not fact.
But whether you think Graeber is a prophet or a hack, his research uncovered one final shocking piece of our history. a kind of emergency escape hatch for the economy that we have completely forgotten exists.
It was called the Jubilee. Ancient rulers in Mesopotamia weren't sentimental. They were pragmatists. They knew that if you let debts build up forever, eventually the whole system breaks, people get desperate, and you get massive revolts. So what did they do? Periodically, the king would just get up and declare a clean slate. All consumer debts were canceled, wiped away, gone. This wasn't some radical act of kindness. It was a tool for social stability. It was survival.
And that leads us to the final, chilling question. For thousands of years, the most powerful rulers on the planet used widespread debt forgiveness as a standard, necessary tool to keep society from collapsing. So why is it that today we're told that idea is impossible, unthinkable, even immoral? What does it say about our own system that the oldest and most tested tool for preventing social catastrophe has been taken off the table and completely erased from our memory?